Now that we have learned the importance of including participatory techniques in this video, we will focus on how to design a dynamic learning session. First of all, we don't want to focus on what we want to teach. Rather, we need to focus on what we want the participants or students to be able to do. In order to do so, we define a performance objective. We start with the phrase at the end of the class or the session, "The participants will be able to." And then we start our description with an observable verb. An example might be, at the end of this unit, the participants will be able to design a learning session on one of the capabilities of transformative leadership. Now, what do we mean by observable verbs? Some examples of observable verbs are analyze, apply, compare, describe, define, diagram, make a list, organize, investigate. Verbs such as understand, learn, or know are not observable. We cannot see whether the student has learned something, now knows something, or understands something, whereas we can see if they can do any of the things we have described with observable verbs. Next, once we have our objective, we plan activities using the learning cycle with its 4 phases of experience, reflection, conceptualization, and application. The first phase is experience, and this is especially important at the beginning of a unit. We don't always have to include an experience when we are giving a longer workshop with various learning sessions, all on the same topic. The purpose of the experience is to awaken interest in the topic, and some techniques we can use are skits, visualizations, field trips, or short extracts from a video, remembering that the purpose is to capture the interest, not to give a long explanation about the topic. If we use a video, 2 to 3 minutes or maximum 5 should be plenty. The second phase is reflection. This phase gives the participants the opportunity to share their previous knowledge and to begin analyzing the topic. If we have used an experience, we can use questions that link the experience with the coming conceptualization. We can do this either using a technique such as dialogue in pairs, where each participant comments their reply to the question with the person sitting next to them, or at times we can pose the question to the whole group. Then comes conceptualization. This is what we do traditionally in teaching. We share new knowledge on the topic with the students or participants. Often we do this through a short talk, but we need to be careful to keep it short. In a more academic setting, we might use a reading with comprehension questions or bibliographical investigation. Then we come to the most important phase, application. We need to make sure that we can dedicate enough time to this phase. The purpose of this phase is to either consolidate understanding or to practice skills. Basically, we want the participants to show us what they have learned, and we almost always use group work to do it. Now, there are 2 different types of application. If the content is basically conceptual, consisting of understanding certain ideas, we could ask the participants to share their ideas by elaborating and explaining drawings or diagrams, or by composing poetries, songs, or stories that communicate what they have learned. Outside the classroom, we could ask them to teach another person or group what they have learned. If they have been learning a particular skill, in the classroom we can give them time to demonstrate the use of the skill being studied. For example, if I was giving this in an in-person seminar, I could dedicate maybe 45 minutes so that in groups you could design a learning session. We can also use techniques such as role-playing or observational techniques. Or, outside the classroom, we could ask the participants to carry out a project or to apply what they have learned in real-life situations and report on the results. Now that we know what we want to do, we can write up our class design. We begin by writing the performance objective. Then we write the series of activities that are part of the learning cycle. We have to make sure that these lead to the accomplishment of the objective. In other words, we should compare, especially the application, with what we said the participants would be able to do at the end of the session. For each activity, we indicate the technique, the content, and the approximate time the activity will take. In the reflection phase, we have to be careful to make sure that the questions are open-ended and not something that can be answered just with yes or no or a couple words. We also need to take care that the participants can respond to these questions with their previous knowledge. This is not an evaluation of their knowledge, but the purpose is to connect their previous knowledge with the information, the new concepts that they are going to learn. With regards to short talks or presentations, in our design we should not only include the name of the talk, but a short outline of the principal points that we will include. When we are first learning to design classes in this way, we might want to use a table such as this one to guide us. However, this has certain disadvantages because you might not have enough room to write out the contents. So personally, I prefer to use a method of just writing each activity in order. For example, if I were going to give a learning session on prevalent styles of leadership, I might define my objective as, after this session, the participants will be able to identify problems with some prevalent styles of leadership. For my experience, I would have them do skits, dividing them into 4 groups, and giving each group a short description of the type of leader that they will portray, and the reaction of the group to that style of leadership. For the reflection, I would guide the students in a full group discussion. After each skit, they could discuss the characteristics of the leader and the reactions of the members, and we would fill in that row of the table. For conceptualization, I would give a short talk on the degree to which each style of leadership contributes to the primary group functions of achieving goals, strengthening unity, and developing new capabilities in the members. And as an application, we could do observation in groups of 4, in which each person in the group explains to the others the degree to which one of the types of leadership contributes or fails to contribute to the 3 group functions. I invite you to experiment with using this method of class design and see how it engages your students or participants. If you want to learn this method in greater detail or to familiarize yourself with a greater variety of participatory techniques, I invite you to read either of these 2 books.